Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening. How we doing today? What's going on with all of you? How are you doing right now today? After everything, where are we at? Where's everybody's head today? I'm quite curious. I have a feeling everybody's still heated. I'm upset today. I definitely made it worse for myself too. Rewatching this game. Good Lord. I made myself more upset, but it's also much more clear what's wrong and how things can be fixed. I'm just concerned it's not going to happen. I'm concerned it's not going to be, the things that need to be done aren't going to be done. You know, that's the concern. I need the emergency meeting. I need to pick up smoking again. No, I don't need to pick up smoking, but I need to. It feels like that sometimes. 6 a.m. this morning, I was up because I couldn't sleep early this morning. I woke up early, got ready for the day, sat down, said, I was like so agitated. And then like, yeah, you learn more rewatching bad games over good ones. Yeah. I was so agitated about things. Like I literally woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, fucking shit. What the fuck? Like so upset, so mad about how things went. And then I 6 a.m, I rewatched. And I clipped it. And I went bit by bit by bit for like 2.5 hours. I didn't watch every second. I like, would skip 30 seconds ahead, certain sequences. But I went bit by bit by bit for 2.5 hours to figure it out. To figure out what actually happened in this game. Because I was so like irritated. Like there's things I want to know about what went wrong. There's things I want to see about what went wrong. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit down and just watch the game. I want to know what went wrong here. And it was rough. It was rough. I have good news and I have bad news. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news, and I could show you guys this, and I actually recorded a 37-minute video that I'll put out in the morning my time tomorrow, that breaks down exactly why it happened, exactly what went wrong. It's not what people think. It just isn't. And I'm going to upset some people because there's a lot of people who are going to want me to come on here and say that the system is so broken and it doesn't do anything. I'm sorry, but that's not true. You're going to want me to say that, but it's not true. Fact of the matter is, I think almost every system in football has pluses, has minuses, has things that can work and things that can't. The things people think are wrong, I think are things that they see emotionally or just are globbing onto. They're not. There's other things that are wrong. Myself included, by the way. I've got it wrong on what I thought necessarily went on. Not totally wrong. But why I got it wrong. I have thought the problem was Bruno and Casemiro in that game. I thought that their problem was losing the ball too easily. And I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not because they lost the ball too easily. It's not. The bad news is that I don't know how The bad news is that there's no reason it shouldn't work. And the fact that it's not working anyway tells me that they just might not actually be able to do it. They just can't. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's the bad news. The bad news is that I'm not sure Ruben Amorim has the balls to make the decision that needs to be made about this team. That's the bad news. The good news is the number 10s are incredible. The purchase of the number 10s and how they've adapted to the system is actually really, 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 really good. Cunha is unfucking believable. I can't even describe just how good Cunha is. Cunha might be one of the best players I've seen at United in all phases in like 10 years. I've rarely ever seen a player do what Cunha does on the pitch. Not only does Cunha play well in the final third, not only does he play well in the middle third, but he plays well in the first third. Cunha is running the game from the fucking number 9 position like Bruno should be running the game. The way that he's dropping, the way that he's moving, and the way that he's getting the ball out and around is unbelievable. He gets it. It's when if you watch the game and only watch Cunha and focus on his actions, and you focus on what he does amazing, amazing things.
Wild how fans expect us to fail at 4-2-3-1, then instantly thrive in a 3-4-3 with the same squad. Tactical rebuilds aren't plug and play, but sure, let's sack the manager every 6 months.
I agree with you, Snyder. He does everything right. And if you watch him, you'll see what the system is supposed to produce. The bad news is the system. The bad news is that where do you play Bruno Fernandes? Ruben's first instinct when he came in was to play Bruno in the 10, get another 10, and get midfielders. Okay? Now, all of our talent is in the 10s. All of our best players are in the 10s. We have too many good players in the 10s and not enough elsewhere. Cunha and Mason Mount, by the way, Mason Mount, are so good. Mason Mount is so good. He's another player where he gets it. He really gets it. He really, really gets it.
Bruno doesn't fit into this system. Cold hard truth. And I fucking adore the man. Kuhn and Mumu are better fits at 10 and he can't fit in the pivot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a concern. It's a concern. Bruno can't be the quarterback of this team. I saw that United Arena said something about that on Twitter, by the way. I would go read what he said, okay? About this too, because he had some good tweets on it today. He cannot quarterback this team because it does not need a quarterback. This reminds me of a long time ago when we had Pogba and Bruno. A lot of people were really, really hyped about the idea of it. And the idea of it was always better than the reality of it. When one was good, the other was bad, and vice versa. Because there's things they were trying to do with the ball that were too overlapping. So let me give you an example of one of the things that's been bothering me a lot, right? That's happened, okay? Last season, Ruben said he let me let this read out.
Would there be a 6 that would allow Bruno to play in the pivot? Prime Sergio Busquets. Also, UV panelist, I rolled your stats show Ugarte is good.
I know they eye rolled it because we don't have a lot of games, but the funny part is I think we have won. Listen to this. This is going to be a crazy number, all right? We've won, I believe I'm correct in saying this, 2 games without Manuel Ugarte starting. We have like 2 wins and like 15 draws and losses without Ugarte starting or something like that. Or it's like 2 wins and like 10 draws or losses without Ugarte starting. We haven't won a lot of games, but the percentage is way worse without him than it is with him. And anybody can look those numbers up, by the way. I mean, there's just factual numbers. Is there any chance now we're selling, we go big on the midfield? Probably not, because I just don't think we can get somebody. But I just want to explain why, because what we're asking for is really, really simple stuff. Let me pull some things up on the screen, and I want to show you. Those games have context. I don't care. We still won games. Like, just bear that in mind. Context be damned. We don't win enough games. We don't win enough football games. So you can't just play down the only time you do win fucking games. Like, we have 15 games won with Ugarte starting. You realize that? We have 15 games won with Ugarte. 15 in the midfield. He has an over 50% win rate when you match him up with another midfielder in there. You can't just roll your eyes at that and say it doesn't mean something, that it doesn't matter. We don't win enough football games to turn down a 50% win rate and say they don't mean anything. It does mean something. It means you won 15 games with a player. We can't win 15 games. We'll be lucky to win 15 games by 2027 right now. So, like, you can't roll your eyes at winning games and say that just there's no context. It doesn't matter. 15 wins, man. How many times we can get 15 fucking wins? That doesn't mean he's good enough. But we won't win 15 games in 15 months if we keep going like this. So it's easy to roll your eyes and say, oh, yeah, we need a new fucking midfielder. We need Baleba, of course. 100%. That doesn't mean 15. That doesn't mean you don't take 15 wins. You can be a 5 out of 10, but right now, Bruno and Casemiro are 1 out of 10s. Maybe worse. They're the most negative players on the pitch week in and week out. I don't even care. I don't care what anybody says. A player can be poor and they can still be better than the alternatives. They can still be much better than the alternatives. That's just life. You still have all of these wins. You still have wins. You have a team right here. You have people constantly saying we've won 7 out of 29 and we have a 25% win rate and we have this and that, and spouting these stats about win percentages. And then when a guy has a 55% win percentage when he starts, you go, no, it doesn't count. Fuck that, man. Don't spout the stats and then ignore the stats. You can't have it both ways, and people want it both ways. Ugarte can be not good enough, and he can still be better than the alternative today. And he is a lot better than the alternative today. What's the possibility of Bruno leaving, and is there a possibility of us picking up a DM or two? I think very low, unfortunately. There's still a lot of push from Saudi, but it's not moved at all. I don't care if they were in Europe. We lost the European final. Would you have taken the win in the European final? I would have taken a win in the European final. I would have taken winning the Europa League. But no, instead, we dropped Ugarte. We played Bruno and Casemiro. I made that video that Wednesday night, and I said I'm fucking terrified of 3 mistakes Ruben Amorim will make that will cost us this game. And he made them. And he hasn't changed it since. And we won't win any fucking games. We won't win any games. We won't win games. And we can't win games. We lost to Tottenham. We beat Aston Villa, who played an awful game. And we got lucky that Bayindir got called for holding the ball in a foul. We lost to Arsenal. We drew to Fulham since then. It's not working. It's not working, man. This isn't better. You have to do with what you've got, right? Just because something isn't good enough doesn't mean you don't do it. You do what's better, period. You do what's better, okay? Of course it's on Amorim. That's him making the mistakes. He made the mistakes. It should have been. It's like, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. You can sit and call him rubbish all you want. Look at what we're watching week in and week out. Look at what we are watching week in and week out. And whine about somebody else who should be playing that you will win some games. That you will win some games. Okay? I don't care if playing Ugarte is only good enough to get you 1.5 points per game. Because right now, we're getting less than 1 point per game. Even if we want to go, if we want, like, this is the same thing. He can be not good enough, and he can still be a lot better than what we have today in the team. It's like, that's okay. Those both things are okay. Two things can be true at once. It's like, it blows my mind. I don't even know how anybody can deny it. This is how heated I am, by the way. I'm not actually like yelling at anybody in here. I'm just yelling. It's so stupid. It's stupid. It's boring and it's ridiculous. A lot of people were screaming for Casemiro to play. Casemiro cannot play football without Ugarte in the team because there's nobody else to cover for him because he doesn't move. He runs in sludge. Okay? And that is a much bigger problem than Bruno right now. Bruno can be hit or miss. Bruno can be very good. Bruno can make a lot of mistakes, but Bruno has serious qualities. When he's on, he's on. When he runs, he runs. Yesterday was one of the worst games I've ever seen from him, but it's made clearly and significantly worse by playing a player who cannot move next to him. Persisting with Casemiro only for his passing. What passing? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you something. Oh my God. It makes me so mad. All right. I made a whole video on this. Do you know yesterday, Casemiro and if I can find the image, I made a whole video breaking all of this down. All right. Just for what it's worth. I made a whole video breaking all this down and I just want to show you some of the pictures from it. Masrao at right wing back when fit? No, absolutely not. I'm going to tell you something else. That's bad news and good news, okay? I'm going to tell you something else that's bad news and good news. Ahmad and Dorgu were fine. I know they had bad games. I know they had bad performances. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. I was absolutely infuriated by the number of occasions in which they made the right runs, the right movements, and the right motions, made the right attacks, moved in the right places, did the right things to be completely ignored when they're supposed to be the primary attacking outlets of the team. They spent 45 minutes getting ignored, having to run up and down, up and down, up and down, while the midfield decided to pass backwards to Luke Shaw every single time. It's natural when that happens, when you make the right play and you're open and you're trying to do the right things and you receive the ball once in every 10 times, when you're doing the right motions, for them to have bad games where they're a little bit off or they struggle. It was really, really poor in the ability to get the ball to the wingbacks, which is fundamental to the entire system. And the reason I said that the problem wasn't what I thought it was, is because the problem with the game was not Bruno losing the ball going forward. He was a coward. He was a coward with the ball. I've never seen anything like it. He was so unfocused that he was playing the ball backwards every time that there was supposed to be an attack. It's very weird, very unusual. There were other mistakes being made, mind you, but that was one of the main ones. Hang on, I'm just finding these and I'm going to pull up the images because I took like 50 images of this game. Grumpy. I'm so grumpy about it. All right, let's go to that one. All right, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this. It's already got my drawings. It's already got my my markers all over it. No, I don't want progressions from the midfield. I want them to pass it sideways, not backwards, because it's supposed to be sideways. It's supposed to be sideways. It's supposed to go out to the wingbacks. That's the whole job of the midfield, is shuttle the ball out wide. Not backwards, but out wide. Does Ruben Amorim have a Portuguese connection to Bruno? Well, maybe. Maybe that's part of the problem. All right, hold on. Let me see if I've got this right. All right, here we go. Look, forgive my drawings, okay? I already recorded this, so I'm gonna delete my little drawings here. Okay, this is a moment in the first half, 3.5 minutes into the game. Cunha comes all the way from striker. Leny Yoro passes it into the 10. Okay, he passes it into the 10. This is the most normal Ruben Amorim movement around. Mason Mount comes running over. And I'm going to show you, there's a bunch of, the ball pings around between, it goes from Yoro to Cunha to Casemiro to Mount, who drops into this pocket really brilliantly, who then sends the ball back to Bruno. Okay? Ready? Ready for what comes next? Bruno, great captain, distracting from Binder, always surprised someone bumped into him during a corner. Imagine how happy he'd be if Cunha hits 2 goals. Yeah. Now watch. Look at this position. I've drawn all over it, like a fucking schizophrenic. Okay, this is what the system does. There are 9 Fulham defenders on that side of the ball. 9 outfield players on the wrong side of the ball. Why? Because Mount made his run over, the 10 dropped in, everybody's moving into the right position, everybody's going there, and the ball goes to Bruno here. What do you think the right pass is? Is it where I've drawn all these arrows, where you have one defender down here, and you have Dorgu down here, and you have Shaw making a run forward to make an easy 2 versus 1 overload, which is the entire point of this system, to pass it out wide and to let them run 2 versus 1. That's why you start with 3 at the back, so that you can already get wide players overlapping and creating overloads against the opposing defenders. It's literally the entire purpose of a 3-5, of a 3-4-3, a 3-4-2-1. It's the entire reason it exists, because Fulham packed the middle. Shaw's sprinting forward. Where does the ball go? You ready? Back. He kicks it back to Leny Yoro. He kicks it back to Leny Yoro. Back into the side with 9 defenders in it. But the system doesn't work. But the system is wrong. Why did you go back to Leny Yoro with 9 defenders? I don't care if he never saw Shaw. That's his fault. He's the midfielder. He needs to know where his players are. He fucked it up. That's 3.5 minutes into the game. He passed back to Leny Yoro. And then he looks at Shaw and says, oops, my bad. I don't care if he never saw him. That's shit. That's crappy awareness. How did everybody else see it? Even Casemiro's yelling at Bruno to pass it to Luke Shaw. Even Casemiro's yelling it. How does he not know? He hold on a second. Say that he doesn't know. How does he not know when it's a 3-4-3 that he has 2 players to his left? How? Because anybody, let me just do some basic geometry here. If you're in the middle and you have a left center back and a left wing back, you would think, if you're in the middle, that there's 2 people at minimum to the left of you. Crazy concept. That's why you train. That's why you practice. That's why you do that. James doesn't see one pitch in his perfect system. No. This happened 12 times. 12 times. 12 times. 12. 12 times in this game, this was ignored by Bruno or Casemiro. 12 times in this game, this was ignored. Okay? 12 times. I went through all of them. It makes me mad. It makes me very, very mad. It's such a simple thing to do. This isn't a pass under any pressure. This isn't a difficult ball. This doesn't take a genius to make this pass. It's a basic thing. It's a basic thing. I'll show you another example where you can see that Cunha gets it. And then, you know, where that Cunha gets the idea here. Now watch. Here's Cunha. Drops all the way back. Drops all the way back from the 10. Drops all the way back from the 10 to pick the ball up here and is running across and shapes himself to pass it out wide to Mbeumo or Ahmad, who have again a 2v1. And you're watching Ahmad raise his hand. I'm ready. Pass me the ball. Pass me the ball. What do you think happens here, by the way? Ready? Casemiro takes the ball off of Cunha. He takes the ball off of him and passes it backwards. He takes the ball off of him and passes it backwards. And Cunha goes and flaps his arm at Casemiro. He takes the ball off of his 10 and passes it backwards. What? Why? To Luke Shaw at left center back. Why? Why does he take the ball off of his own player and pass it backwards? Explain. I can't. I can't figure it out. I spent so long going through this, and it happened it took me an hour to get through the first 20 minutes of this game because it happened so many times. An hour to go through 20 minutes because it just kept happening. And Ahmad goes, defeated. Perfect run. Perfect angle. He passed it back for Luke Shaw so he could pass it backwards as well. Then I'm going to show you something that really bothers me, and it's this one, all right? I'm only going to do one more. Okay? Yeah, we already talked about this in the Patreon. Here's Bruno moaning at Matthijs de Ligt. Moaning at him about what he's about to do. Whining at him, pointing at him, exacerbating at him to pass the ball to Lenny Yoro. Okay? But what actually happened here? Mason Mount makes another really, really, really good run. A really, really good run. You can see this defender's caught on their back foot. You can see Mbeumo ready to go. And then you can see De Ligt get ready. To get Shaw the ball way too late. I don't care if it was Shaw or Dorgu. Either way, it was a negative pass in that circumstance. They were not open. It wasn't the... fine, it was Shaw or Dorgu. It was somebody off screen. It was the same. Either way, there's always two people on that left side. Either way, it was a negative pass from where it was supposed to be. But Bruno is moaning at De Ligt here. And look at the pass that De Ligt makes. Look at the attack that this was. This is what you're supposed to do. Mount dropped in, dragged Castagna out. Dorgu made a darting run through. Mbeumo timed it perfectly. It was onside. And it would have created a great chance, but it was just slightly off. Slightly too far ahead of Dorgu. But it was a perfect run, a perfect attack, and a perfect play. And instead of seeing it, Bruno's complaining at De Ligt to pass the ball sideways to Lenny Yoro. Why? For what? For what reason? De Ligt is seeing the game properly. I don't get it. De Ligt understood it, man. De Ligt was getting it. De Ligt has been so brave in these first two games with his passing. I'm unbelievably impressed. I'm unbelievably impressed with Matthijs de Ligt and what he's done. Super impressed. It wasn't offside. It wasn't offside. On the replay, it wasn't offside at all. Why, man? Just why? There's so many things like this that happened throughout the game that were just over and over entirely unnecessary. I'm seeing if I can find one more just to show because I covered all of it. And like I said, I have like 50 images. I'll show you another moment where Cunha is getting it, okay? This is what led to our goal, actually. I wonder if it's going to show properly or not. Yeah, okay, good. This is the lead up to our goal. By the way, when Benjamin Šeško came on, he was actually really good. There was multiple occasions that helped us score the goal where he helped us get the ball in these easy positions. Now, right here, this is how we scored. You can see Šeško running, Cunha here. Look at Dalot in space, right? You can see Dalot in space. Now, this isn't a pass that Dorgu can make from here, right? This isn't a pass that Dorgu can make. So Cunha curls his run around to receive the ball from Dorgu, and watch what he does. He curls it around. You can't really see it. The ball's right here. Oops. It's hard to see it, but the ball's right here. You could see Dalot in that empty space, this 2v1 that has been there the entire game, and not once did we actually try to get it. Cunha comes close to Dorgu, drags the defender, turns, launches it out wide to Dalot to create this 2v1, like he tried to do earlier with Ahmad before Casemiro took the ball off of him. In this attack, for some reason, Dalot cuts inside or something instead of running towards the line and putting it in. But he draws the corner out of this, which we score off of. This was there all night. The entire game, this was available. Like I said, there was 12 instances that I counted in going through the game where that pass was on. That play was on. That wingback is open in space with Mbeumo inside to make a 1 versus 2, which is, again, the entire point of this system. And it was ditched, and it was abandoned, and it was forgotten. And it was instead a negative pass by the midfield. I'm going to show you one more time, actually. I do want to prove my point with examples. Some of you will watch the video tomorrow, but since you're here, I want to prove it to you. Here's right before that, okay? This is Šeško. He actually comes in here. He wins the ball. Look, right here, we send a long ball up to Šeško. We send a long ball up to Šeško, who wins it from this position, takes it down, squirts it out to Mason Mount here. Now look at it again. Here we go again. Look at how many defenders are on that side of the pitch. Look at how many defenders are on that side of the pitch. Here's Mbeumo. Here's Dalot running forward. It's almost identical to the first one, but going the other way. And Mason Mount is right here. Watch what happens. Bruno jumps in front of him, takes the ball off of him, okay? Takes the ball off of him and sends it to Cunha. Back into the danger. He takes the ball off of Mason Mount and sends it back into danger. 1, 2, 3 versus 1. And you still have this on this side. Just fucking give it up, man. What's the point? What's the point? Why did he send it back into all the danger so that it could immediately be lost? When the same thing happened, the 10s drop, the players move, it manipulates the defense, and the right side is wide open for a 2v1, and you actually have a player ready to make the pass. Why? Why? It's almost like making it harder on purpose. Mount and Cunha got this game so right. They understood it so well. This isn't a hard pass to make. Mount is ready to make it. Right here. Mount is ready to make this pass. Hold on. There we go. Mount is ready to make this pass out wide. One touch. Whoop. Bruno steps in front of him. Just like Casemiro did. What the fuck? It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It makes no sense. It's killing me. It's unbelievable. It was again and again and again and again. First half, second half, all over the place. We can't attack because the way we want to attack is being actively worked against to do the opposite. The two players, I hear you, but Mount hasn't played in a 3-4-3 since years. Mount has less experience than Bruno. Why can Mount get it? You know, and so it was funny because it was like, it's just weird. It's just weird. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's the most basic thing. We do the whole fucking thing. We have the 10 drop. We shift the whole defense around. This guy scoots over. This guy runs in here, and we end up in this situation right here that I'm gonna show you. Basically, over and over. Okay, we end up doing this over and over. This exact position in the team in the game was happening like 12 times. Now, look at this screen and tell me where the ball should go. Where does it go? Right? I'm missing something, but I have like one too many players in a weird spot here. Hold on. What am I missing? I've got, oh yeah, this guy. Yeah, this is right. Where does the ball where's the ball should go? Where does it actually go? It should go here. Where does it go? Here and here. So, no, I'm not buying that it's a system problem. It's still a coaching problem. It's still a coaching problem. It can be the coach is responsible for getting his players to execute. The coach is responsible for getting his player to execute the plan. The coach is responsible for getting his players to do the plan. The coach is responsible for picking the right players who can do it. So Ruben Amorim is responsible for this. Ruben Amorim is responsible for this. He's responsible for this. Exactly like when he passed it back to Yoro, who is in danger week 1. Yep. The manager can be responsible, but he's also not on the pitch. He's also not the one on the pitch. The out of possession work is interesting. The only time Fulham actually beat us is when the center backs were tiring. They were jumping and getting turned, and it only happened at 60 minutes once, and at 71. Ooh. Oh God, I can't get the thing. I don't have the thing open. Oh my God, you're just gonna see my zoomed in pores. There we go, got it. Finally, listen to my hand signals. Hold on. There you go. It only happened at 60 minutes and 71 minutes. Okay. Those are the only two times that they actually did it, which is why he subbed the center backs. But he did it too late. At 60 minutes, it was pretty clear that certain players were getting tired. What should have happened was Bruno should have been taken off. Cunha or Mbumo should have been taken off in the second half early because they were struggling. They were getting really tired. Xerxes and Kobe Mainu should have come on much earlier. Xerxes, Kobe Mainu, Šeško, and 2 center backs is what I would have done because De Ligt and Shaw were getting quite tired at that point in time. So, you know, what happened, Luciano? You're correct-ish, right? But it actually worked quite well. The issue is right before the goal, Marco Silva made 2 substitutions for Fulham. He brought on fresh legs, and they ran against our tired legs. Okay. It's early season. They shouldn't be gassed at 60 to 70 minutes, but they were. But because it's early season, okay? But they brought on, he lost to Silva's, well, we drew, but he lost the battle there because Silva's two subs, one of them being Smith Rowe, who scored the goal. He lost there on that decision. They subbed on two fresh players. We didn't at that point in time. We took too long to sub the rest of the team on, and they scored. They scored. De Ligt actually got beat. Again, it's not 100% his fault because he didn't actually have the issue on the goal itself. De Ligt got beat on the build-up, but then Dorgu cleared the ball out. Dallo does a fucking, I don't even know what you want to call it, but some sort of style move on the pitch instead of just taking the ball and trapping it. Loses it. On the cross itself, there's nobody to blame but Bruno. Nobody to blame but Bruno. Sorry to say. People can try to pin it on somebody else, but there's nobody else. I haven't even discussed that. Okay? I haven't even discussed that. Does Bruno have a lot of power here? Is he being constantly picked for political reasons? This club needs to let go of emotions and sentimentality. He does have a lot of influence, which is okay, but I don't think that's necessarily why. I don't buy for 1 second that playing slightly deeper means he can't understand the system. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Because he was messing up really basic things. Bruno has played. Let's just bear something in mind for a second. Bruno has played deep in a team, deeper, for a long time. Even in a 4-2-3-1, when you're talking about in possession, finding the right runners, distributing the ball is his bread and butter. It has nothing to do with this. It's just he gets tunnel vision. It's not that complicated. Like that. In addition to that, Bruno has played as an 8 for Portugal for 10 years. He can play as an 8. He played deeper for Sporting when we bought him. The idea that he can't play 8 and that's why he can't do the fundamentals is just wrong. It's not true. This is a matter of focus. This is a matter of not getting it. And if you are so, like, I'm watching Cunha drop into our own half and manipulate the ball and play in the front line and move all over the place. But playing 5 yards deeper doesn't make sense. Playing 5 yards deeper doesn't matter. You can't play football because you're 5 yards deeper. Bruno hasn't played as a 10 in a 4-2-3-1 his entire career. I don't know where people are getting that. If he can't do it, then he can't do it. Then he just can't. Then so be it. Then he can't play because it's too specialized of a role. Barely any teams actually play with a funneled playmaking single 10 anymore. Who does? What team plays that way anymore? You have to be able to fit within some sort of system. People are blaming the system for the goal. United were +1 on defense on that break. Amorim can't account for Dallo's, Bozo, Gene, and Bruno switching off. Well, yeah, let me show you. This is Bruno and Smith Rowe. Everybody's covered. De Ligt comes in to mark the striker, which is fine. This is Bruno on Smith Rowe. And this is Bruno on Smith Rowe, walking while he scores. You can make any excuse you want in the book. Every single player on the pitch has to mark a runner at some point in time. There's no excuse for standing there marking your guy and then just walking and letting him run into the box. Where's Shaw? Shaw has a man. Look, this is Shaw's man right here. Right here. He's marking somebody. Then he has to leave his man to account for Bruno's man because Bruno doesn't follow his guy. This is not a Shaw problem. You can try to blame Shaw all you want. It's not a Shaw problem. Shaw did nothing wrong in this instance. There's nothing that Shaw did. In this case, that was incorrect. He was marking someone, and then Bruno let his man run, and Shaw had to leave his man to try to catch up with that. It's nothing to do with Shaw. You know, unfortunately. It'd be nice if it was a massive team issue. But it's not. I mean, everybody's marking players throughout the game. Then the question goes to the manager and why he left him in there. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like I'm not critiquing the manager. Like, quite the opposite. Hold on, let me go back in case I want to do that in a minute. Quite the opposite. It's his job, man. It's his job to fix all of this. It's his job to pick the right players. It's his job to do all that. Just watch Bruno G track to the last minute. Yeah, you could watch that Newcastle team down to 10 men and tell me that their midfield doesn't have to track runners. We don't make these excuses for anybody else. You watch other teams, nobody gets that excuse. When does anybody else get the excuse? So if you're playing in a 3, you don't have to track runners? Of course you do. In fact, you probably have to track even more runners because you don't have a 3 behind you stepping up to mark some of the wide players as they drop in. Your defensive duties are probably just as big, if not bigger, because in a 3 with 2 men behind you, it's still just 5 players. I know you aren't. It's still just 5 players. A 3 with 2 behind them is 5 players. A 3 with 2 in front of them is same 5 players. I can do math. It's the same amount of defensive work, actually. The only time it's different is in a 4-2-3-1. You can kind of get away with hanging out in the front, but that doesn't really work either. So, I don't know. I am bothered, obviously. Very bothered by the situation. What is that? Hold on a second. Oh, okay, never mind. Is this why we went for Baleba? Sure. Because certainly if Bruno is not that good at defensive work, let's just say, let's now be fair. Let's turn the other direction around. Let's turn this conversation the other way around, okay? If Bruno is not at his strengths playing defensively, then obviously you hope to make use of his in-possession traits and support him with a better defender, right? Then why the fuck are you selecting Casemiro, who can't run? That's my problem, right? You've picked the worst possible partner for Bruno. I don't believe that Kobe or Ugarte can't do better than what Casemiro is giving us today. I don't believe it at all. I don't believe it for half a second. What I also don't understand is how you meant to sell Casemiro all summer and then you start him. I don't understand it. I said that before the Europa League final. It doesn't make sense, and we lost because of it. It's bad. These are errors. This is what worries me. This was the bad news. This was the bad news. We should have given Toby Collier a chance mid. No, I don't agree. I think Toby was poor, unfortunately. I think he was the worst out of in possession as any of them. But my bigger concern is that even if that were the case and you were to stick Baleba in there, it doesn't change the passes that Bruno was missing. It doesn't change Bruno making the whole game about him instead of just distributing the ball properly from side to side. It doesn't change that. Baleba wouldn't have fixed why we couldn't score goals yesterday. You realize that. Baleba wouldn't have fixed why we couldn't attack. Like, I want people to understand that for a second. Carlos Baleba would not have fixed any of the reasons we couldn't attack yesterday. Because he wouldn't be doing that job. The ball would have still fallen to Bruno Fernandes in most of those situations where he needs to make the right decision and he makes the wrong one. Baleba doesn't fix that. That's what I said about the first week. Baleba wasn't going to make us win the game. There's just a few things that have to be done. There's a few things that are wrong. Those aren't fixed by Baleba. Now, one thing I will add, by the way, is on Lammens on this. Let's touch on that really quick. I think that will have a much bigger effect than it appears. Mostly because on the game, it's harder to pin the individual moments, but Bayindir was so bad at corners that it would constantly result in Fulham getting to sustain attacks, sustain pressure, get the ball out of our hands, get more chances, get more corners, get more set pieces, keep us on the back foot. He was so bad at dealing with those corners that it probably massively affected the game state itself by Bayindir. So while it's a little less obvious there, I think they made 2 chances from open play. They made 2 chances from open play. That's it. And the rest of it was like corner, they almost get a chance. Corner, they almost get a chance. Corner, they almost score. Corner, they almost score. Corner, they almost score. Whew. It really did impact the defense. It really does impact the confidence. It impacts the way that we play. It's hard to estimate how much. I don't know. But I think that's a serious problem that obviously we're hopefully fixing because I think Lammens will be here soon. And that deal will be done sometime this week. Somebody said, you said the midfields are not that important, and now you're saying it all hinges on them. No. It doesn't all hinge at them. They're making it all hinge on them, and that's why it's not working. The midfielders need to not make it all about them. All they've got to do is shuttle the ball to one side. All Bruno had to do in all of those pictures is just shuttle the ball the other direction. That's it. Nothing else. We didn't need Bruno or Casemiro to have an amazing game yesterday. We needed them to not actively make the game all about them. The midfielders in this system just have to push the ball out to the sides. Send it to the right wing back. It's not a hard pass, and most of it was without pressure. Most of it with open spaces. They don't need to do all of it. It was the 10s doing all the work. It was Cunha and Mbumo and Mount dropping in, turning, pinging passes around, running, carrying, doing all of that. All the midfielders need to do is pick up that ball when it falls to them in the instance that it does and just keep it moving the other direction, the way it was supposed to go, and not miss penalties. That's it. They don't need it to be all about them. We didn't need anything special. It was the attempt to do the special instead of do the basic that made the attack not work. Like, it's not that hard. Kobbie Mainoo in that game, and I've said, look, Kobbie Mainoo is I have like some concerns about Kobbie Mainoo, okay? But the fact of the matter is, there's nothing that Bruno or Casemiro did that Kobbie wouldn't have done better in that game. Nothing. Not one single thing that Kobbie wouldn't have done better. And frankly, there's not one single thing they did that Ugarte wouldn't have done better either. It's just the truth. And if they'd been on, I think Cunha would have taken a penalty or Mbeumo and scored. But that's neither here nor there. It's worrying. The reason this one bothers me so much, the reason this game bothers me, and I'm a very, very positive person, and I think that so many things can work in this system, the reason it bothers me so much is because I can see what we're supposed to do. It's clear as day that what we're supposed to do is very, very clear. It's clear, eh? Right? We can see it if you're looking for it and not just saying it's a bad system. If you're looking for it and you break it down and you understand what has to happen, then you can see exactly what is needing to happen in the games. My concern is that our starting players in those positions are bad at it. How did we get in? How did we get through summer and we can't do it? How did we get through summer and they can't do it? It was not asking them to do anything hard. It's the basics in this system. How does Cunha get it? How does Mount get it? How does Dorgu get it? How does Ahmad get it? How does Mbeumo get it? Some of them just arrived. But the midfielders can't get it. How? How do they not understand it? That worries me most of all. How is that being allowed? I don't understand. And I worry that it won't be fixed. I think Bruno has a place in this team. Right now, what I would do if it was me, if it was just entirely up to me, McFred is better than Bruno and McFred yesterday would have dominated that game for us and we would have won. I'm 100% sure of it. It's funny because they did the things we would have asked for from that game really well. How do they not get it? I don't know. But what I would do immediately is just pick Ugarte and Mainoo in the midfield moving forward. And Bruno can compete with Mount, Mbeumo, and Cunha for the 10s for the next few games. Whoever performs best in those positions plays. And Bruno can compete with Kobbie in the 8, and Casemiro can compete with Ugarte in the 6. What bothers me is the lack of the meritocracy on it. The lack of seeing that they're not doing it and changing it. There's no excuse for Bruno to have finished that game in 90 minutes. There's no excuse for Kobbie not to have been on the pitch. None. There's just none. There's just absolutely none. Zero. There's no justification for it in any world, and I've defended the situation of Mainoo and Bruno's competition and all of that for a long time. I've defended that because I understand it. Then he needs to play. There's no reason that he shouldn't be playing. There's none. What I would do next game is play Cunha and Mount in the 10s with Šeško above them and Ugarte and Mainoo in the midfield. When's the last time you remember Bruno getting subbed? Never. And it's a real problem, Jester, like a huge problem. Every team, every top team, there is nobody who is unsubbable. None. I've never, ever seen any good team in this league or in La Liga or anywhere else that won't sub one player no matter what happens. I've never seen it. Nobody does it. Salah gets subbed. De Bruyne would get subbed. Anybody on Chelsea probably gets subbed and rotated every 2 games. At Madrid, everybody gets subbed. Every single player will get subbed at some point in time pretty regularly and rotated. Every single one. At Barcelona, everyone will get subbed. Why can't you sub him? Why? Because it's like, it's not about Bruno's like the worst player or something like that. If he's having a bad game, why can't he be subbed like anybody else? How is it helping him to not sub him? How is it helping him to not be able to change the game? How is it helping to not be able to put somebody else on? I don't get that. Why is that? Why is that? That doesn't make sense to me. Everybody should be subbed. If he's having a bad game, sub him. What's wrong with that? Like, I don't see the problem there. Then it doesn't have to be this drama. Like, it's a drama because he's unsubbable and unbenchable and unrotatable. Well, if he wasn't, then he'd be allowed to have a bad game. But instead, he's going to have a bad game, and then we're going to have to keep dealing with it. Instead of just letting a player have a bad game and taking him out of the limelight and putting him on a bench and then letting them earn their way back in. Atletico Madrid are open to loaning Conor Gallagher. Sign him up tomorrow. Sign Conor Gallagher tomorrow. Sign Conor Gallagher. Yesterday, sign Conor Gallagher. 100%. Bring Conor Gallagher in. We don't even have to talk about it. Bring Conor Gallagher in. Good signing. Great signing. It would be great. He'd be great. He would be great in this team. He would be very, very good. He would do the job. 100%. Bring in Conor Gallagher. Liverpool are subbing Wirtz. Yeah, I mean, 120 million. They're subbing him. Ekitike subbing him. Mo Salah, not this game, but gets subbed regularly. In fact, the thing that does bother me a little bit is the only players that get subbed are center backs regularly, which is what most teams don't sub, which can be a bit confusing. No, but look, it's like, it's just funny. You know what I mean? It's just funny to me, man. Like I said, I'm upset because here's what bothers me. Here's the reason I get upset about things. Okay. Here's what bothers me. I don't see any evidence that he's going to fix it. Have you considered that the managers that keep Bruno on know more than us fans? But they've all failed, Siva. That's the issue. If they succeed, then they're right. If they fail, then they're wrong. Ruben Amorim has to start winning. If he's not winning games, he's wrong. Period. I agree with that sentiment. It's too early in the season to declare that he can never be a good manager. I don't think that at all. I actually still think he will be successful. But if you lose, you're wrong. If you win, you're right. And it's not always in one game instances. Managers aren't responsible for every game, okay? Managers aren't responsible for every game. They're not. But on a bigger picture, look at that. It's just so cool. Why does it do that? Anyway, on a bigger picture, if you win, you're right. If you lose, you're wrong. That's how any competitive environment works. Rightness is what's the word I'm looking for here? There is no ultimate rightness. You understand that in football. There is no right system. There is no right player. There is no right tactic. There is no right formation. There is no right anything, actually. There's no objective truths ingrained in the laws of the universe, okay? There's none. So what's right and what is wrong in football? Winning and losing. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else that determines what is right and wrong. What determines the best system? Why did we end up with the 4-3-3 and these types of things? Because it worked to win games. Why do managers go to a formation? Because they win games with that formation. At the end of the day, in any sport, or anything, frankly, what's right is what works and what's wrong is what doesn't. There's actually no other way to define rightness and wrongness. So things have to be done. There's certainly things we've learned from watching football for years and years and years about these things tend to be more right. And these things tend to be more wrong. And these things tend to work better. And those things tend to not work better. And you get some guidelines around what's the right thing to do, what's the good thing to do, what's all of that, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot of variation within that. It's not about one-off games, it's talking about longer periods of time. And the longer the period of time, the more you know whether something is wrong or right. So, at Sporting, this is the part that bugs me about that. You asked me that question on Sporting, okay? You would almost not find a more different player to Bruno than Morita. Almost the exact opposite in the 8. It's 2 games. Look good first match. Started well versus Fulham. Rebuilds aren't fixed by one preseason of 3 players. Sadly, bad habits take time and minutes to change. This is how rebuilds work. I'm not expecting us to be great right away, Snyder. I agree with you. I'm not expecting us to be right away, to be good right away, to be amazing, to be perfect right away. But what's broken, we need evidence that it's being fixed. You understand? Like, we need evidence that's what's not working. Here we go again. We need evidence that's what's not working is being fixed. I have to figure out this camera. I still haven't figured out how to turn it off, and I talk way too much with my hands for it to do this shit. How do I lock you? Hold on. Let me see. There it is. All right, we've locked it. I finally figured it out. I have to turn off gesture control. You need to see why. What's not working. You need to see that. Let's see, it's all working. Yeah. You need to see that is being fixed. If the problems are not, if you don't see evidence that the problems are being solved, then there's no progress to be gained, right? I'll give you the example of what bothers me, okay? When we left Ten Hag in there, for me, it was hopeless. Because there was no chance it was going to work with Ten Hag. You understand? None. There was no evidence that it was suddenly going to work under Erik Ten Hag after 2 years. After 2 years, there was none. His performances were getting worse. His solutions were getting worse. His ideas were worse. And the problems that he introduced, he was not fixing. And it was 2 years. So when he was kept, for me, that was hopeless. Because I looked at the situation and said, it's impossible to fix this. We're not fixing it. There's no way to fix it. I want to see that we're fixing the issues that are there. Otherwise, it feels hopeless. So what to me that says is right now I'm very, very worried. Right now I'm very, very worried. Because yes, we will rotate against Grimsby. Yes, Kobbie Mainoo will probably start against Grimsby. Yes, hopefully we start, we rotate, we change some different players, we try some different things and win that game. We better fucking win that game, right? That's like an unforgivable loss, by the way. If we don't win that game, it's unforgivable. but we should rotate and win that game. But when we roll up to Burnley on Saturday, are we going to do the same thing we just did? Again? Are we going to keep it going? Are we going to rotate against Grimsby just because we can, because it's a midweek game and we have to? Or is there going to be an actual, real-world recognition of the problem? And I tell you why I don't think so, and why I feel very negative today. Because Bruno didn't get subbed. Bruno didn't get substituted. Why did Bruno not get substituted in that game? It was the worst game he's played. Ruben Amorim said he was unfocused, said he was off it mentally. If he won't change him in that game, then why do I believe he ever will make a change? Because it doesn't mean Bruno can't do it, but there must be consequences for bad performance. There must be ways for other players to earn their place in the team. There must be the ability to look and say, hey, that didn't work. Fix it. The specific mid-two's been bad since Europa final. Absolutely. The evidence is the Arsenal performance in the beginning of the game before Bruno had lost. No. Bruno was solving bad culture with the bomb squad on Erasmus. He'll turn Bruno. Fair enough on that last part. Fair enough, Snyder. But the thing is, that's why I analyzed the beginning. Bruno was bad while we were good. He was making the wrong decisions. He was bad while we were good, right? The team was performing for 15 minutes in spite of Bruno, not because Bruno. Okay? As I showed, that's why I analyzed the first 20 minutes, and that at 3.5 minutes, at 4.5 minutes, those mistakes he was making, we were getting chances and doing well in spite of him, not because of him. That tells me there's something good there. There's something good in this team. There's something that can work. Bruno can get it right. Bruno can adjust. Bruno can turn things around. I actually think he can, because I think he's a very, very good player. But he can't if there's no consequence for... There's no correction. If there's no correction for doing things wrong, then I'm going to assume you think he's doing it right. If you play someone every game and they keep making the same mistakes and they keep playing, you're telling me that they're right, that they're not doing something wrong. And if Amorim doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, if Amorim thinks he's been good, then we're finished. Because Bruno can be bad. And then we can correct it. But if you won't substitute him, then you're sending a message to me and everybody else that Bruno's fine. And that Kobe isn't good enough. That's the message you're sending. I can't believe anything else from that, because there's nothing else that tells me any different. If you're going to say in the post-match that he's in competition with Mainu, then you're telling me he did well enough. And there's thank you, Matt, because there's a good example. Before the final of the Europa League, he kept picking Rasmus Hojlund. And I said, don't pick Rasmus Hojlund. Don't pick Rasmus Hojlund. Don't pick Rasmus Hojlund. And he kept picking him. He kept picking him. Even though he was playing horrible, he kept picking him. And I said, this is bad, because I don't see any evidence he's not going to pick Rasmus Hojlund. And what happened? We went into the final. He picked Rasmus Hojlund. And he put in one of the most useless 90 minutes of all time. That's why I was worried about it, because I don't see the evidence that he's going to correct that problem. That doesn't mean I'm turned on the manager. I'm talking about right now, there are obvious problems that carried over from last year. There's things that have improved, but there are a couple things that are the same as last year that are really, really bad, and is why we can't win matches. We need to see the evidence that he's willing to correct that to have a hope for the future. If he's not willing to, then there's no hope. It's kind of that simple. Right now, I don't see the evidence for it. That's all. No, Xerxes got fit. He could have played anybody else. He could have played Mount in the 9. He could have played Bruno in the 10, Mount in the 9, and then done Ugarte and Casemiro, like he did in all the other Europa games that got him there. He played Casemiro and Ugarte together to get you to the final and then changed it. The worst thing you can do is change what's working, and the other worst thing you can do is not change what isn't working. Those are the only two mistakes you can actually make. If something works, keep it the same. If something isn't working, do something. That's it. It's pretty black and white. Those are the two choices you have. The only wrong decisions are something's working, you change it. Something isn't working, you don't change it. Because those are the only guarantees of failure. You can't blame Amorim for Bruno missing a penalty, Cunha missing a one-on-one, or Dalot being Dalot. Exactly, though. I agree with you. That's why we still should have won that game, in spite of those players' bad performances. That's why it's not all on Amorim. But he still didn't change what happened there. There's enough good things that we should win. There's enough good things that we should win games. I agree with you 100%, Kaelin. Like that's the positive aspect of it. That's why I said there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is there's enough positive things happening that we actually should win games. The bad news is the things that are stopping us from winning games are not being corrected. Pre-United, Amorim used exclusively legs and willing runners in the midfield too. Why has he chosen to abandon that? I don't know, Thomas. That's my biggest question. He's abandoned to a degree the things that made him successful. For some reason, that seems like something every manager does when they join United. Ten Hag joins and then doesn't do his system. Amorim joins and then abandons his midfield. What the fuck? It's like something in the water. We're cursed. I don't get it. So I'm not actually trying to be toxic, like even a little bit, because I think that Bruno can play better. And I think that Amorim, there's a lot of good things actually in the system. I actually think both. I'm not Bruno out. I'm not Amorim out in the slightest, not even close. But what I am is something's not working. Show me you're willing to do something about it. Show me you're willing to change it. That's all. It's okay to sub Bruno Fernandes. It's okay to show him, hey, you're playing a bad game. Get off and come back on and you'll work and we'll fix it. It's okay to do that. Why is that okay for everybody else? That's all. That's all it is. There's system aspects of Amorim's system that look great, actually, based on what I looked at. There's ways that it creates enormous numerical advantages in dangerous areas that should lead to 5 times as many attacks as we were able to do. Fact. That's something to be positive about. At the same time, we're like almost actively making decisions that go against that and then not correcting them. I want to see us correct those decisions. That doesn't mean Bruno is benched forever, but it does mean why can't Bruno be competing in the 8 and in the 10s? And if he's not getting it, play somebody else, just like everybody else. In Mbeumo, I think he's fantastic. I think he's wonderful. I think he's going to be an excellent player. He's not quite getting it yet as well as Mount. So I would start Mount for now. Doesn't mean I don't like Mbeumo. Not even slightly. I think Mbeumo's an incredible player. It's okay to bench someone and have them come off the bench for a bit, make an impact that way, and figure things out and see who performs best. We're supposed to be a high-performance team. We're supposed to have people competing. That's okay. There's going to be many times I don't think Mason Mount should be starting. Like, it's okay, man. It's just like with center backs. It was like, it's okay. De Ligt performed. Now I'm saying start him. And you guys know what I've said about De Ligt and my concerns with him. So it's just, it's okay. I haven't complained once about Maguire not starting since De Ligt's been putting in good games, because that's all I care about. Who can perform the best? Anything else is favoritism. Anything else is silly. This just seems to be what he's doing with Bayindir. He could be showing the board, look, I need to see. I don't think he's doing that. There's probably a reason why the Saudi League's back. I don't think he's doing that. They're not. He doesn't need to show them anything. They're incredibly close on all of this. I promise you that. I do get that concept. He's not showing them anything. He might be sending a message to Onana, by the way, but he's not sending a message to the board. I can promise you that. They're not even far enough apart. It'd be like, I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but he's not sending a message to the board. I promise you that. He's picking the team he thinks is going to win. But I just think it's like what Phil Jackson would do in basketball. Maybe he's playing the player until he figures it out. Maybe, but we can't do that. Part of figuring it out is being substituted when you're not figuring it out, right? Part of figuring it out is being willing to make those kinds of changes. The examples of things like basketball hold up to a degree, except during a basketball game, you can sub a player off at any point in time, talk to them about what they're doing wrong, put somebody else on, and then sub them back in to correct their mistakes. You have the ability to go in and out of games. You don't have that in football. How would Bruno figure it out on the pitch? There's no earpiece. There's no controller. There's no nothing. How is he supposed to figure it out in the game? He's not. You have to take a player off. You have to take a player off in order to do that. It's a different dynamic. Coaching in basketball is very active. Very, very, very active. Okay? Coaching in football is very inactive. Okay? It's mostly in between games. The only thing you can actually do is coach in between games and make personnel choices. So taking Bruno off and saying, hey, that's not right. You're messing these things up, and putting else someone on because you can give them instruction on the bench and say, this is what you need to do when you go into that position, is the best way to coach mid-game. Okay? Then during the week, you fix some of those issues. But if you're not willing to take a player off and put somebody else on, then what you're saying is you're okay with what they're doing. He obviously made it clear, I think, to Casemiro, he wasn't okay with what he was doing by subbing him so early. That's fine. Less frustrated with that. But he didn't send that message to Bruno. And he didn't give Kabi a chance. So that's the concern. That's the concern about it. But yeah, obviously Ruben wants a midfielder, but if he put Baleba next to Bruno, it wouldn't have fixed the issues that we saw in that game from Bruno. That's what I'm saying. That bothers me more than anything else. It wouldn't have fixed it. That was our first choice player. It wouldn't have solved that problem. That problem is different. It would solve the Casemiro problem, but it would not solve the Bruno problem. So until we see, I can't tell people to not be negative when they don't see evidence that the problems that are showing up are being solved. And they are showing up. I showed you all the evidence of it. You can say it's blame and this and that. I literally showed you with pictures what he was doing wrong. It's not an agenda. It's about the facts of the matter. I showed you with pictures what he was doing wrong during that game. They're factual. They're problems. A player is allowed to have a bad game, but if the manager doesn't correct it, then it's on the manager. You understand? It's that simple. But anyway, we will get a new keeper, Lammens. That hopefully will be done very, very soon. Kabi isn't looking to leave. I've said this all summer. I'm tired of the bullshit around that one too. I'm tired of the frothing and the sharks and the fucking. I'm tired of the people stirring up drama over it for one reason in general. Because while I've sat here criticizing Amorim and all of that over this whole time, people have been waiting to use this Kabi thing to attack Amorim from the start. They've been waiting. Kabi may not be the answer. He may be the answer, but it's about winning games. It's not about one player or another, you know? So it's whatever on that. He's not trying to leave. They're not trying to sell him. He's been in the plans for a long time. He's supposed to be the guy to follow Bruno, as I've said endlessly. He's never said he wants to go. We never tried to sell him this summer. We've been focused on him getting as fit and back to as best as possible. Again, my frustration is why isn't he playing then? Because we spent all summer preparing him for that role. I think he and Ugarte actually played very well together in, I think, the Bournemouth game or something like that. I don't remember which one it was. And I think when it's set right, they'll do well together. And I think he needs to get his chances. That frustrates me. But the other stuff is just nonsense. It's just stirring up trouble to try to make a player FC versus manager FC thing. It's none of that. It's none of that. It shouldn't be that way. Love how passionate you were today. Saw a lot of tactics videos, all focused on out of possession. You're focused on the in possession, correct? I think you're spot on. We still fix it out of possession, but not being able to fix in possession after so much time is scary. Right. My feeling is that in possession dictates out of possession. Because this isn't American football. You don't have ball, no ball. Where you are in possession and how you lose it determines your initial shape out of possession. And people always ignore that. Under Ten Hag, we would give the ball away in really bad shapes, and it would result in a very bad out-of-possession shape by default and leave us open to transitions. I'm focused on the in-possession. Why can't we sustain attacks? Why do we lose the ball in bad spots? Because if we lost the ball less, if we were able to attack better, if we were able to get more penetration, then it would also help us defensively. In possession improves out of possession. That's how Arsenal approach it. That's how PSG approach it. That's how City approach it. That's even how Liverpool approach it. Most top teams settle in a very effective form of in possession, which leaves them in a better state out of possession. That's how I see football. Can you talk more about what you saw from Šeško? Just that he was dropping around really well for those long balls up to the number 9, which is one of the ways we can beat the press. I saw him dropping into the gaps really well, winning it in the air, knocking it onto other players, making some runs into the channels, receiving it when we could just go direct. That's going to add us another method of progressing the ball forward that isn't so dinky. And we need that. And it will push defenders back. We'd lose the ball in a 3-1-6, hence why we got smoked on transition. Exactly, Thomas, exactly. Thank you, Frederick Rickland? I don't know. Thank you for that. But yeah, those are my thoughts today. Anyway, Cobby's not trying to leave. We're not trying to sell him right now. Again, everybody has a price. That's been the way all summer. But we haven't tried to sell him. We haven't been actively seeking out suitors. We haven't told him to go. He's not been looking to go. He's not been telling us he wants to leave. He's not been seeking out offers and bringing them to the club. None of that has happened. So he's as for sale as any other player is in the squad. But he's not for sale like the guys we're actually trying to sell. Okay, so that's it's not that dramatic. Lammens should be coming in. Hojlund looks like that one's almost done. We'll see if we can get anybody else in terms of yeah, we'll see if we can get anybody else in. So that's it. I'm going to end it here. It's been an hour and a half. It's almost 5 o'clock here. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys. I will see you all tomorrow for more. Tactics video will be out early in the morning. Make sure to watch it. 37 minutes. I go through all the pictures, all the frames, all of that. Betis and Onana, I don't know. We're trying to sell, and then we'll see if we can offer somebody else, okay? Thank you all for hanging out today. This was fun, hopefully therapeutic for all of us, but check out the video in the morning to get more. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. Have a good night.